What's up, Dragon Brood? We are getting oh so close to the release of Crimson Vow, and we still have a few more decks to get out the way. I think we're going to end up having like 3 or 4 more decks still, so there should hopefully be something for you by the time the set goes live, one way or the other. But if you want to have input, which by the way, if you aren't a member for just 99 cents, you could be a member here on the channel. But if you're not, you missed out. Well, maybe you could still get in. I haven't started recording the videos yet, but I have some polls going just for the members that they're going to get to decide the order of some of these decks that we have up here on the channel. So just a little tidbit there, but also some other perks if you want to check those out down below. Also, if you'd be so kind, please remember, like, subscribe, share, all that wonderful stuff, because that really helps lift the views and the awareness of the stuff we're doing here on the channel, because this is a lot of work putting out this many decks and videos over the course of a week. It's going to end up being like 14 or 15 decks, y'all. Like, all, man, crazy. Anyway, today we're talking about Selesnya Humans. And the reason is that there's just always a lot of humans, especially in Innistrad. And, you know, it's one of those things we had to go down the road and see with some of these new cards, which ones fit where, how they're going to work, do they combine well with old cards? Lots of questions we're going to try to answer, so let's go get into it. Okay, first things first, there are a lot of cards you can play in this deck. And there's even a couple of different sub-themes. If you want to focus on +1/+1 counters, that's a thing. If you want to make a bunch of human tokens, that's a thing. So it was a little bit difficult to decide which way to go. And we kind of stole a little bit from both halves, but did a whole lot of neither. But I felt like this was the best selection of cards. But that being said, I think both other plans are likely going to be viable if you choose to do that. So just keep that in mind while we go through this. Because right off the top, I was basically having to split our 1-drops because I wasn't totally sure which way we wanted to go. Both of these do care about +1/+1 counters, but the first one is Hopeful Initiate. It's a 1-mana 1/2 with training, and you can pay 3 and remove 2 counters, 2 +1/+1 counters from creatures you control to destroy an artifact or an enchantment. Now, since we're going to be playing so heavily on creatures, we're not going to have a lot of room for disenchant effects. This at least gives us that. And we have a moderate amount of way to put +1/+1 counters on things, so it could matter, but we'll see. Alongside that, we are going to be playing 3 Olenbach Escort. Vigilance, 1/1, has the ability to sacrifice itself, and you can take target creature with +1/+1 counters on it and give it indestructible and lifelink. Again, we have a few ways we can make this happen, so there's a good chance we're going to be able to save several creatures. It's less exciting on its own because it's just a 1/1, but, you know, we'll see how it works out. Now, being along the lines of both being a human and putting +1/+1 counters on things, we are going to play Intrepid Adversary because the card's just good. It's lifelink, it pumps your whole team. Like, it's hard to turn away from that card. We're also going to play 4 Kabira Takedown. We're playing so many creatures that it only makes sense that this is going to be a quality removal card. Also lets us cheat on land just a little bit. And, you know, the versatility is just really good there. The other option was we could have played a couple of Shadiri Shelter, maybe add a couple more land and play something like, I don't know, the green 1 mana, put a counter on a thing, give it protection, give it hexproof till end of turn. Like, that's a thing we could do. But realistically, I think takedown is going to be our best thing since we're going to be kind of light on removal. Now we're playing 4 Catilda Dawnheart Prime. And we actually had 3 in the list for a while. And right before I finished this off, we went back and put a 4th one in. Part of the reason is that we are rarely upset to have it. It's also going to draw a lot of heat from your opponents. Rarely are your opponents going to want you to have Catilda on the board, so having a backup can also be nice. Now, obviously, if you draw a 3rd one, you're going to be really upset and not want it, but I think the upside is enough that if we can hit this on turn 2 or 3, we're going to be pretty happy with it more often than not. Playing 4 Luminarch Aspirant. By the way, Catilda's a 2-mana 1/1 that has protection from werewolves as an upside, but then all your humans tap for mana, and you can pay 6 and put a +1/+1 counter on all your stuff. Luminarch Aspirant is a 2-mana 1/1. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1. We all know what this card is. It's really good. It puts +1/+1s on things, so it helps with our Initiate, helps with our Olenbach Escort. Just all around damn good Magic card. Now we're going to try 2 copies of Rite of Harmony. This is a green-white instant. When a creature or an enchantment enters a battlefield under your control, you draw a card. Now this only lasts until... It does have flashbacks, so you can use it a second time late in the game. But we also have a few cards that are going to make creatures, and that's going to get you free cards as well. And because it only costs 2, there's several times that you may do this on turn 4, turn 5, where you can play 2 things after it and get 2 cards, and that's actually pretty solid too. So, there's a couple of other things we can do with this in this list, but we'll cover that in a bit. We are going to play 2 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. We could probably get to a third. I don't know how many we really need, but it does have first strike. We can put counters on it, which makes it harder to block and kill. We're not playing a ton of spells, so the downside doesn't really hurt us too much. And the spells we are playing are very cheap, and that's purposeful, so we don't have to worry about our own Thalia. We have 3 Adeline, and this is a card that I think early on didn't get a lot of recognition. But Adeline's a 3 mana X4 where X is equal to the number of creatures you control, has vigilance, and whenever you attack, you make a 1/1 human. Nothing really bad about this card for 3 mana. It's very, very good. It's good that you don't have to overcommit to the board to keep building your situation, right, to go wide. You don't necessarily need a ton of creatures, though it gets bigger for having other creatures. If you just get 3, that's enough, right? That's still going to do plenty. So, and it grows itself, right? Every time you're attacking, you make a token that also counts for power on Adeline, which is pretty cool. We're trying out 1 Augur of Autumn. We do have just a ton of different cards with different costs, so there's a realistic chance we can just use this and just play things off the top of our library. The other benefit we have too is that we're basically all but a handful of spells being creatures. We should be able to play things off the top of our library with no problem if it comes down to it. But we shall see. Playing 3 Elite Spellbinders. I couldn't find room for the 4th unless maybe you want to pull the Augur of Autumn. So feel free to do that. Elite Spellbinder is a great card. Just here in the early stages where we're trying to experiment with things, stuff had to be skimped on. I just made a choice on Spellbinder. But again, personal preference, wouldn't fault you at all if you found a way to play the 4th Spellbinder. Now, Savior of Ollenbach. This is another interesting one, and we talked about this a little bit in one of the other lists, but it is a human soldier, so it fits the theme of what we're trying to do. It's a 3 mana, 1/2, has training, and when it trains, you can exile up to 1 other, so you don't have to remove anything, but up to 1 target creature, or from the graveyard as well, from the battlefield or the graveyard. And this is a big deal, because when it leaves the battlefield, then you get to return those creatures to the battlefield under their owner's control. And this makes this card very versatile, and I think this is something we haven't talked about a lot, and we covered this on the stream a bit, but you can remove your own creatures to protect them from different combat situations. Maybe you want something to trigger, but then you don't want to lose it, you want to have it post-sweeper. That's a thing. There could be something really good in your graveyard that maybe you lost a turn earlier too than you wanted, and you can put that from your graveyard, exiled now, so when this Savior of Ollenbach goes away or dies or whatever, you now get that card back. And I don't think that's something many people have talked about, that like you can literally resurrect creatures from your graveyard. Now, not that turn, obviously, but if something happens to the Savior. And the other thing about the Savior too, as it just says when the Savior leaves the battlefield, it doesn't have to die. So you can get into a situation, say even against other mono-white aggro decks or something, where they play a bunch of the like Skyclave Apparition type effects, right, where they're exiling your creatures. If you can put 1 or 2 things under the Savior, well, now your opponent doesn't want to remove it, your opponent also doesn't want to block it, so then you really put your opponent in a rough situation. So I find it very interesting. It's a very different card, so we'll see how it plays out. And then we have a couple copies of Torrens, Fist of the Angels. 3 mana, 2/2, also has training. Oh, excuse me. When you cast a creature spell, you create a 1/1 green and white human soldier that also has training, which is a big deal, because it's not even just a 1/1. It's that, okay, now when you attack, it's pretty much going to be a 2/2 and then some, right? So that becomes an even bigger problem for your opponent to deal with. So it's a very cool 1/1 token to get. And this also works on cast trigger. So it doesn't even matter if the creature you cast comes into play or not, you still get the token. And then again, these last two cards do a lot with like Rite of Harmony, right? We can just sit on a Rite of Harmony, something happens to the Savior, the 1 or 2 creatures we have under it come into play, and then we get to draw a card. Or we can just play Rite of Harmony on a turn where we want to play 2 things maybe. Maybe we drew the Olenbach and something else late, the Olenbach Escort. And you want to play those with Torrens out, and it's like, okay, well, now you made your 2 creatures, and you got 2 tokens, and you got 4 cards, right? So we're going to try and see what some of these situations are that we can put together. And then the final spell here in the deck is 2 copies of Sigarda, 2 white, green, and a colorless for a 4/4 angel, has flying and trample. All humans get +1/+1. All humans you control, I should be specific. And then if you have Coven, the 3 different powers, when you attack it, to look at the top of your library, pick a human, put it in your hand. So yeah, just a good all-around useful card, and it flies. So yeah, we're going to go with this. I think this is a good mix of strong, powerful cards. It should be pretty well. As far as the lands, we're going to be playing 4 Branch Off Pathway, 2 Cave of the Frost Dragon. We're playing 4 Overgrown Farmland, 3 Forest, and 6 Plains. We're not playing Lair of the Hydra because we don't have that many green sources that we would want, or green requirements that we would want green sources early. So we're really leaning more on the white mana stuff. So that led us to just playing a couple copies of the Cave of the Frost Dragon. And yeah, that's fine. Things could change. Again, you could play a different version where maybe you have a little more green and you want the other stuff. But this is the way we're going for now. Now, again, there's multiple ways you can build this, so if there's certain cards you like that you want to get into the list, feel free to play them. I mean, we were making this on stream. We had so many cards that we had to cut to get down to this list. So nothing wrong with going a different direction. Also, speaking of those streams, if you want to come by and ever have input on things or see some stuff maybe before it appears here on the channel, ask questions in real time, feel free to check out the links in the description below to both our Facebook and our Twitch gaming streams. You can come by and just be part of the party. And if you want to just come by and be part of some other discussions or get help with decks and all that other wonderful stuff, be sure to check out our Discord link as well. And then finally, just for fun and giggles, check out my other channel. I've got a review and reaction channel that I've linked down there as well. Some fun stuff happening over there. But otherwise, let's get ready for some Crimson Vow and really go back, check out those other deck videos if you haven't seen them. Lots of deck text to get you ready for the set coming out. And whew, that's a lot of stuff. Remember to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. That's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.